How do you keep chickens cool in the summertime when it's 100 degrees outside? Well, believe it or not, chickens don't actually need much help from you, and they definitely don't need electrolytes. Stay tuned, we're going to talk about it. So it never fails every single year, whether it's wintertime or summertime. We are constantly talking about how to keep chickens cold or how to keep chickens warm. And just like in the wintertime, chickens don't need heat lamps, right? In the summertime, it's the same way. They don't need ice cubes, they don't need fans, they don't need electrolytes. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it today because there are a lot of myths out there that could actually harm your chickens further if you don't do your research. So let's start with the great electrolyte myth. We see all of these chicken keepers, including famous, well-known chicken keepers, saying that your chickens need electrolytes. And I'm sorry, I laugh because chickens, in the same blog post, they tell you that chickens don't sweat. Well, the only reason that you, as a human, need electrolytes is either because you've been working out sweating, which gets rid of the electrolytes in your body, or because you're sick and your cells are under stress, which can also get rid of electrolytes in your body. Now, chickens are similar, but not exactly the same. Chickens don't sweat. They don't have the same sweat glands like what we have. I mean, come on, have you ever seen your chicken sweat? No. So what they do is they puff up their feathers and they put out their wings so that air can flow through their feathers. And that's how they cool their body down, and they'll pant, which is completely normal. Now, if your chicken is in complete and total distress, you're gonna know. It's gonna be lethargic, it's gonna be laying around, eyes closed all the time. There's a big difference. Yes, your chicken needs electrolytes in that situation because their bodies and cells are under stress at that point. But if your chicken is just a typical, average, everyday chicken trying to cool off, it doesn't need electrolytes because it's not actually getting rid of any of the electrolytes in its body because it doesn't sweat and because its cells are not under stress. Electrolytes do two things for the human body. They allow water to either be retained or exposed outside of the cell. They really help water connect with your cells and talk with your cells. The other option is to stimulate nervous system or to stimulate cellular structure in your body when you're sick or when you have an ailment. And so electrolytes are great for that reason. That's why when we have kids and they get sick, we give them Pedialyte because they need electrolytes to replenish all of the electrolytes that they're losing, whether they're throwing up or having diarrhea or whatever it is. Same concept. Very, very simple, common sense stuff. The other issue is that electrolytes, if given too much or too often, can kill your chickens. And I see chickens dying all the time on Facebook and in Facebook groups. And people are saying, I don't understand, I've given them electrolytes and I've given them frozen treats and they're still dying. Well, you're probably killing your chickens. Electrolytes are basically just minerals and mostly salt. Even homemade electrolyte recipes are just straight salt, basically. Chickens do not process salt like humans do. And in fact, if your chicken is getting too much salt, consider they're already getting salt in their layer feed if you're not making your own, then they're gonna die because their bodies cannot metabolize salt the way that ours does. So another reason not to give your chickens electrolytes this summer, even though somebody might be telling you to, it's really not the smart or humane way to keep your chickens cool this summer. I have seen a lot of other things that people suggest, from hosing their chickens down, which please don't do that because chickens, obviously, as we said before, ruffle their feathers up to let air under it. And if you're matting their feathers down with water, they're not going to be able to cool down. You're actually going to retain more heat than get rid of heat. I've seen people talk about adding ice cube treats to the run, which is great, but it cools them down temporarily and it causes their bodies to overheat quickly. You have to consider at the beginning of a day, a chicken's body is acclimating to the heat naturally. But when you bring a chicken inside, or when you allow them to cool off like near a fan or in an ice cold water or with ice jugs, then you're giving them a temporary relief for a long-term issue. And so you're actually putting more stress on their body by cooling them down in 10 to 15 minute increments and then having them heat back up very rapidly rather than acclimating to the weather naturally on their own. So all of these things are great, but we humanize chickens in so many ways that we treat them like pets, and that's fine. But chickens are livestock, and I think that's something we have to remember. It's not like a dog outside in the heat in the sun that's been domesticated over and over and over. It's a chicken. And so we have to kind of treat it like livestock, whether it's your pet or not. So here are some things that you can do to keep your chickens cool this summer, and I think that your flock will be healthier because of it. So the first thing to do is shade. If your chicken run or chicken coop doesn't already have shade around the area, then you need to create it with a tarp or a building, whatever it is. Your chickens need shade to get out of the sun. Your coop doesn't count. Coops can get really hot. Even though it's shady in there, they can still get hot, and that doesn't count. So make sure your chickens have enough shade to get under and out of the sun when they need to. The next option is cool, fresh water frequently. Now, if you work all day, it's okay. Put their water in shade and it'll be just fine. But give them cool, fresh water in the morning. You can stick a couple of ice cubes in there, but I wouldn't stick ice cubes in there throughout the day. I would only stick ice cubes in there in the morning to help keep the water cooler longer, and then you can do it again in the evening. But fresh, cool water, you can add some herbs to it, but I wouldn't add anything else. Dust bathing area, that's a huge thing. Your chickens want to dust bathe when they're hot because it helps cool them down. So make sure they have a good, efficient dust bathing area so they can cool down in that. Regular feed and food scraps. Now you see a lot of people giving their chickens watermelon and fruit in the summertime. That's great. Those are natural sources of keeping a chicken cool. You can freeze them if you want to. It's not necessary. Again, going back to the whole ice cube thing, you don't really want to cool them down too much. But just fresh, naturally cold, ripe fruit like watermelon and cantaloupe and bananas and strawberries are great treats for your chickens in the summertime. I would also make sure that you are giving them their daily ration of feed. They're probably going to slow down with feed because they are trying to not get as hot and digest as much because it makes them hotter. So you might see a decrease in egg production and feed intake and water intake actually, but it'll be okay. They'll be all right. It's just their natural way of cooling off. Make sure your chickens have plenty of ventilation. They're great outside during the day, but when they go up in the coop at night, you need to make sure that they're getting enough air. We actually installed a summertime door on our coop this year that allows lots of fresh breeze and ventilation to come through the coop. Keeps the coop less dirty and dusty, and it's actually really great for the chickens. They've loved it. So make sure your coop has enough ventilation. You don't need a fan, but you do need plenty of ventilation in your coop. You know I'm into herbs, so I've got to give you some herb options. There are some great cooling effect herb options that you can offer your chickens in their waterer or in their feed or just in a bundle hanging for them to peck at. Some of those herbs are sage, lemon balm, peppermint, lemongrass, and red clover. They are fabulous herbs at keeping chickens cool and interacting with their natural cooling defenses to help cool their bodies down naturally without any ice or any electrolytes. And it is that simple. Implement these things. We have friends all over the country that have been implementing these things for years at our suggestion of not giving ice cubes and electrolytes and frozen corn and stuff like that. In fact, I would totally avoid frozen corn if possible because chickens digest it a lot differently than humans do. And if we're honest, humans don't really digest it well either. But just give them their natural resources and they will thrive. Now again, if you have an issue with a chicken that's sick or not doing well or stressed out, yes, by all means, do the electrolytes. They need electrolytes replenished in their body. Give them some special treatment. Don't bring them inside. You know, if it's like winter time, if you bring a chicken inside in the winter, they still have to acclimate to the cold weather when they go out. Same with a bird in the summertime. If you're gonna bring a bird inside and then take it outside, it's stress on their body. Don't do it. Avoid it as much as possible. I will tell you, if you have a chicken that is stressed out and you need to separate it, you could put a fan with it just to help cool it off a little bit. Stress is a different situation. Same thing in the wintertime. If we have a stressed out chicken, we put it under a heat lamp, because heat can do amazing things once they're up and going again. Then they can acclimate to the weather slowly. But you don't need a lot of stuff to take care of your chickens this year, and I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit as well. There's a link in the description in the bottom to a blog post that I've written with all of this information in it, and probably a little bit even more in depth for you. So I suggest you go check that out, print it off if you have to, and learn a few new things about chicken keeping. If you haven't checked out my book, The Homesteader's Herbal Companion, I really encourage you to. There's a lot of great information in there, including about chickens, that you can learn and discover some great ways to implement herbalism on your homestead, with your family, in your home, and on your homestead with your livestock. I do have a new book coming out next spring. I haven't announced all the information yet, but the title is The Homesteader's Natural Chicken Keeping Handbook. And when I have more information on that, I will definitely share it with you. Right now, we're just going through the planning stages. The manuscript's been submitted, and the cover is actually coming along really well, but we won't actually start pre-selling this until later in the year, maybe around Christmas time. But I wanted to share that with you guys because a lot of people are ready for a new and inspirational chicken keeping book that's about herbs and just natural living. And so this book goes way in depth, farther than any other herbal chicken keeping book ever has, and it goes from beginning to end of chicken keeping, through every stage of chicken keeping. And it's not just about herbs, it's actually about a lot of other things in the natural realm of chicken keeping as well. So I am really excited about this chicken book. I have learned so much over the past few years, and just putting all of that information in there of what's worked and what hasn't worked, and giving you some incredible tools on your chicken keeping journey, whether you're a hobbyist, a pet owner, have an egg sale business, or even a meat business for chickens. You're gonna love this book. So I'll keep you guys posted and let you know when it's out and on pre-order, and when I can share more information with you. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Happy homesteading.